All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Jim Kukrill, and for over 20 years, I've been working as a consultant, an author, a trainer, and a professional speaker for both large and small business owners. And my passion is really to inspire the uninspired to build a better business life or career. And I do that by creating training programs and content and teaching people and businesses all around the world about my unskippable strategy for success. So I appreciate your time today, and I promise it's not going to be a waste of your time. So give me a few minutes, and let's see if I can inspire you to become unskippable in your own way. So today's presentation is America, We Got This, how we overcome adversity. Because this is really going out to every single person or business owner who has failed. And I've failed so many times that I don't even remember how many times I've failed. In fact, I've failed more times than I've succeeded. I would say that the ratio of success to fail for me personally is about 95% fail and 5% success. When you look at a ratio like that on the surface, you probably think it's way too high. I mean, if you're failing 95% of the time, that's absolutely terrible. And in a way, it really is. But the reality is that those 5%, those measly 5% of the successes have essentially built my entire career for over 2 decades. And that's 2 decades of not having a boss, except my wife, right? 2 decades of never worrying about getting fired, 2 decades of complete control over my own destiny. All right. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very, very proud of that. And I've learned that the cliche is true. The cliche is true that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, which is, of course, made famous by Wayne Gretzky and then taken over by the more famous, probably, Michael Scott from The Office, who used it completely incorrectly and weird, as Michael Scott would do in The Office. But it is absolutely true. You do miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And it is very cliche, and it is one of my favorite quotes. I'm sorry, but it is so very true. So real quick today, what I want to do is tell you a real quick story about somebody completely unusual. You're probably not going to think, why am I talking about this person? But I want to just prove a point here as we move into this presentation. Everybody knows who this is, right? This is Captain Kirk, or as most people know, Captain Kirk, or William Shatner, the actor, okay? Now, he's always going to be Kirk to me. He's always the best Kirk to me, even though I do like the new guy who plays Kirk. So William Shatner had an amazing career. He's got multiple Emmys. He's been in multiple long-running successful TV shows, Boston Legal, TJ Hooker, movies. Very, very impressive career. And some would argue, like me, that William Shatner is about as American as apple pie in the 4th of July. You know, what's funny, though, is that William Shatner is actually born in Quebec, right, and Montreal, and he came to America to start an acting career. But what I want to talk about, and the point of all this, is talking about the timeline of success that William Shatner had in his career. Because when we look at William, all we think about is all this amazing success this guy has had. And there's something really interesting to point out. The first success that William had was with Star Trek, of course. Star Trek ran for 3 seasons, but before that, William was pretty much unknown. And Star Trek was actually a modest hit at the time, right? It didn't really become a cult classic or become really popular until after the 3-year run was over. However, it did okay in the ratings, but it wasn't like this, big Sopranos type a show back in the day. And that was what people thought was his biggest transformational moment that pushed him on to success for the rest of his career. But really, what's interesting about William Shatner is you would be completely wrong if you thought that, because after the cancellation of Star Trek in early 1969, Shatner experienced difficulty in finding work. Captain Kirk could not find a job, right? He was typecast as Kirk. He had very little money. He was broke, actually. He had 3 kids. He just went through a nasty divorce. He lost his house, and he was living in his truck bed camper in the San Fernando Valley. right? And he was taking personal appearances at bar mitzvahs and birthday parties as Captain Kirk, right? And he was not getting high paying jobs. That period of his life was a humbling time where he would just do anything to support his family, right? And you could hire Captain Kirk to come to your birthday party in 19 whatever it was, 1970 or whatever it was. And what most people see when they look at somebody like him is you see this amazing success. And you would have thought, as in most people think, that adversity in your life and in business comes at the beginning of your career or at the end of your career, because that's usually how things go. But for Shatner, it came right after one of his immediate successes, his actually very success. So what's the point of all this? The point of this in business and in life and everything is that adversity does not stick to your schedule. It absolutely does not. It comes when it wants to. It doesn't just come in the beginning. It doesn't just come at the end. It comes whenever it feels like it's going to come. In Shatner's case, it should have, it hit right at the moment when things should have been amazing. He's on this amazing show. He's become an icon. And in life and business and your career, the same exact thing is probably going to happen. And the challenge for you is learning how to deal with it, what may come your way, because I guarantee you that it is coming. So let's look at today's COVID-19 world as an example. Now, if you're watching this in the future, right, I always talk about this, people watching these things in the future, you're like, wow, boy, everything's fine now, Jim. But right now, right, May 2020, we're smack dab right in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. So everything's messed up right now. The adversity has come and injected itself right into our lives, to our businesses, our careers, right? So hopefully everything's great in the future when you're watching this, but right now it's really a mess. So if you look at the world right before this pandemic hit, it was actually going pretty well. We have problems in the world, in America, right? Our regular normal problems are never going away, but States, we were really right in the middle of a really rousing economic boom, right? Unemployment was at an all-time low. The economy was booming. People were spending, like it was a great time to be an American at this time. But then what happened, right? Kaboom, COVID-19 hit. All of a sudden, we're all sleeping in the back of our pickup truck with Captain Kirk and his dog, right? So what are you going to do? Now, I'm going to save you all the inspirational stuff and all the get to work stuff. I do believe in all of that stuff, and it has driven my success. And I do think it demands being repeated over and over again. But I also believe that each individual, each person is either going to buy into that stuff and make something happen, or they're simply not going to. There really are two types of people: those that, who want to kick some butt and pivot and make things happen, and then those that just aren't interested in doing that type of thing. So let's assume you're the first one of those people. You're the person that wants to pivot. You want to build something. You want to move forward. You don't want to sleep in the back of your truck with your dog and Captain Kirk. This is for you. And, we are at a really tough point in America right now. If you don't know what the upside down American flag means, it is essentially means that the country is in distress. And I'm focusing on America here because that's where I'm from. The US flag code allows this use of the flag in situations of dire distress, but the real intention was distress as in immediate danger to life and limb, such as your ship is sinking at sea or an SOS signal, right? But when you look at an upside down flag right now, that's how I view where we're at right now. We have a lot of problems. We are no means perfect, but we also have a lot of opportunities, and we have the self-drive to take advantage of those opportunities. So while we are in distress, there is hope, because, Mark Cuban, somebody that I've been associated with for a long time, he's a billionaire, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Shark Tank, right? Mark said, quote, the one thing about the United States of America that's different from every other country on the planet is that we're a country of entrepreneurs. We look to start businesses. When we start to talk about the American dream, and when we talk about rags to riches stories, it starts with an entrepreneur coming up with an idea and executing on that idea. So Mark's right. We all know Mark's right. And if you watched an earlier presentation that I did, it was called How to Thrive During a Gold Rush or a Pandemic. You'll remember a story I told about a guy named Sam Brannan who became California's first millionaire during the California Gold Rush. Now, what he did is he sold equipment to the miners instead of mining for gold. And I also talked in that presentation, how businesses are working to pivot and innovate during a pandemic to stay afloat or to thrive. Because in reality, a gold rush and a pandemic are essentially the same thing to an entrepreneur, an ethical opportunity. So the point of all this, to steal a line from my friend Mark Schaefer, America, we were built for this. This is a recent article that Mark put up, and it's called Why I'm Not Dismayed by the Post-Crisis Economic Projections. And you can read this at businessgrow.com. Now, Mark is a friend of mine who's a professional speaker and author, really amazing guy. He actually had COVID-19, recovered from it, got it again, right? And he's got it again, right? But Mark writes great content, does great presentations. And when I saw his article this week, I was inspired because he's exactly right. America, we were built for this. And I want to quote his excellent article here. Quote, business leaders and economists are forecasting dire post-crisis economic projections, perhaps the worst downturn in our lifetime. And certainly the rapid bounce back of the V curve seems improbable at this point. But I'm not as bearish as many others for simple reasons. Economists can't account for ingenuity. The government isn't going to bring us through this crisis. Politicians are more concerned about holding their seats and creating slick TV sound bites than leading us. But businesses will step up and figure this out. It's already happening. End quote. So then Mark goes on to list a bunch of the businesses that are making it happen. Great company called Descent. They created an insurance program specifically for self-employed workers. Their business has tripled since early March. Previously uninsured people rushed to get coverage in case they fell ill, right? My friend Dave, who's on the call with us today, Dave told me a story about how his college son and some of his friends in the neighborhood were sitting around a fire pit last week. And they said, we should start a business. And they said, let's start a power washing business. And they said they put a Facebook page together and they put a little flyer thing together and they went around to the neighborhood and they said, we're local college guys and we want to help do power washing for you. They got their first gig. I think it was like a day later, right? That's an amazing story. If you're in Atlanta, you need power washing, reach out. I'll hook you up with Dave and his son. Now, the eloquent main point of this that I kind of briefly went is, America, we are built for this. When we were coming out of the Great Depression or 9/11 or the world financial crisis, 2008, the projections were uniformly dire and wrong, just like they hopefully are now. The most influential and important events are the ones that emerge spontaneously and with little warning, like the coronavirus itself. This is what Mark is writing. And Mark says we have millions of those events ahead of us. The innovators, the creators, and the makers will lead us to the other side. That's what Mark said. So as we're wrapping up here in this inspirational talk, I just kind of want to leave you with one final thought here. Was the world exactly the same after the Great Depression? No. Wasn't at all. Was the world exactly the same after 9/11? No, not by far. Was the world exactly the same after the banks and the Wall Street gambled with our money and lost it in 2008? No. Now, will the world be exactly the same after COVID-19? The answer to that is, of course, no. And this is where your head must be now. The longer that you hold on to the thought of, I just want my regular way of life back and back to normal as it always was, that is only hurting you right now. It's a fine thought, and I want it too. But the reality is that it is never coming back to that. The reality is the moment you accept that, the better your life, your business, and career will be, because you can think about moving forward. So hopefully a little bit of inspiration for you guys. The point of all this thing is that this shift is not a moment, right? We're in the middle of the largest and quickest shift in consumer behavior mankind has ever experienced. Ever. Quick, fast, big global change for every single one of us. This is not a singular, one time, temporary moment. It is not a short term inconvenience. This is real, and it's going to stick around long after all the states have reopened, long after we have a vaccine. It could take years and years of recovery, and the world will forever be changed from this in a big way. Hopefully things go back to normal, but this is really a big time event. So what I want to leave you with is, what's it going to be for you? Are you going to be sleeping in the car with your dog, like Shatner, or are you going to be moving forward? Because as Americans, we know what we have to do. Now let's go do it. We're a nation of unskippable people and businesses who do not give up. We've been through trying times before, but we've always pulled ourselves up out of it. And we are truly an unskippable tribe who will never give up, even in the face of ultimate adversity. And that's what I want to leave you guys with today. I want you to feel energized. And thank you for watching. If you'd like to get some more access to more of this type of training or inspirational stuff, just reach out to me at www.beunskippable.com. My name is Jim Kukrow. Really appreciate your time. I'm available for speaking gigs, training, virtual or otherwise. And just reach out to me if you want to hear more about me coming in, inspiring your audience, giving them hope, or giving them some practical advice to build a business. Thanks very much for your time, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. Bye.